Good day to you, partner. I'm Key, and I can already tell that I'll be your best friend in this forsaken camp.
Hey guys, We Solo here, aka the Skeleton King. This will be the last video for Season 8 that I will make. I'm not sure if I'm going to make more content for Crafters League, we'll have to see. This is my main build, my only build, obviously I don't play the game that much, for Season 8, and I actually had a lot of fun playing it. And I think this video will clearly show that an ATD Druid is a viable meme. Like, it's actually a meme build. And I think that's as good as I could have made it, and I'm pretty happy with it. This is a 200 density T2 Royal Crypts. The good layout, and that's important because right after this I did a second map, and I got the bad layout, and it was higher density. So why that's important, it just means that I think the next clear was actually a better showcase for the build, even though it took longer, and that's because I got the bad layout. But unfortunately, I didn't record that one, and so you're stuck with this 200 density meh clear. And what's the good news, though? The good news is this build is so brain dead, you could not play Project Diablo 2 for like a month and do a pretty good map clear time, even with terrible routing and with a pretty slow build. But the build kind of just plays itself. Because what do? You do what a bear does. You shit in the woods. So beautiful, just like the great America, Joe Biden. Sometimes he gets lost on stage, doesn't know what to do with his hands, and he's got poop on him. Just like a bear. So sad. Anyways, what is important to note about this build, if you want to play it? Let's start off with one of the advantages to playing a build that doesn't require you to attack enemy mobs. You get to open interactables. Interactables are incredibly good in Diablo 2, and then, of course, that means Project Diablo 2 as well. A chest has basically a 75% to have 4 drops, okay? So that's basically like killing, 4 white mobs or something like that, or killing 3 white mobs. A lock chest has a 100% chance to have 8 drops. So a lock chest is like killing a pack of 3 champions, It's like, or a 4-pack of champions. Like, it's that good. And so every time I'm opening up these chests, lock chests, or interactables, and by the way, the dead rogues and these stashes ignore the 25% no drop, so they're just always 4 drops. So they're like basically killing a champ mob, or maybe even like a champ and a half. Yeah, something like that, okay? Kind of hard to quantify, but it's more like a champion and a half. You could open up all of those things and still clear the map in basically the same amount of time. And I think one of the cool things about playing this build is what started out as a meme, which is just I'm going to play a build that is AFK, and then I do the thing people always complained about. They'd say, you didn't identify all your items, you didn't pick up everything, you didn't, go to your stash at the end of the map, you got to include that too. And then I made a joke about it saying, well, I'm going to open up, all the stashes too. But what's funny is that's actually a valid thing to do with your mapping time. Now, caveat, if you're playing one of the faster mappers in the game, like a Poison Nova, or maybe a T1, Sorceress with 200 FCR, then yes, I don't think you should interact with everything you see on the game. But what's funny is that if you actually happen to be next to an object, or you have telekinesis because swords are just broken like that, then yes, it honestly is worth your time. Using telekinesis to open up, let's say, a locked chest, like I said, it's like 3 or 4 champions. That's the same as going to another pack. So it's that good. Now, if you talk about a Poison Nova where you actually have to make your way to the stash, it becomes a little less viable, but I still think opening up locked chests would be worth your time. Like, actually, it would be, how it's mobs, it's density. Mobs per minute is how you get high runes. Well, you can basically add interactables to that. And, even for the fastest builds, I think there's a reason to do it. And then for a sorceress with telekinesis, it might be even worth your time to telekinesis almost everything, especially early on. Moving on to the future, how could I have made this build better? Pretty simple. More faster run walk. Not really more ATD, to be honest. Having more ATD would just be a EP number. But honestly, once you hit 14k, it seems like the clear speed kind of is the same. If you look at the map health mob map thing, which is really useful, I basically one-shot all white mobs anyways, and getting more damage doesn't quite help on the champs. And the only mobs that I don't quite deal with well are the swords, but it's pretty close. And unfortunately, the serpents. The serpents have incredibly high PDR. I don't know why. They actually have really low health, but super high PDR. So they're basically, you skip them. I guess if you wanted to play a build similar to this, where you have physical damage, but a low amount that you can't really control, you're not running any sort of pierce, then this is still the best map by far. Unfortunately, the serpents are annoying, but you can just skip them. Like, that's actually smarter. And usually the white ones will die when you're running through them. And even the champs and elites might die, even if you try to skip them, just because, the poison creeper will do some damage, Amelia will do some damage, and they might hit your other summons a little bit. Killing bosses is actually possible with this. You can't do it with the way I built it, though. The reason why you can't do it the way I built it is I was kind of just doing it more jokingly, and so my jewels suck. But if you had IAS jewels in your Stone Crusher, which I think is by far the best weapon, because the only weapons with ATD on them are trash, like there's a Guardian Naga with ATD, it's really not worth it. There is Stormlash, which is kind of viable, definitely. But I think the Stone Crusher -5 PDR is overall better for the pacifist version. Now, again, if you're actually attacking a map boss, then either one would work well. The Stone Crusher would be slightly better for everything else. But for the map boss, just having that static field proc, and they both have Crushing Blow, so that doesn't really change. It doesn't really matter what attack you use. Hunger is super good. I think Hunger would be one of my priorities. One of the things I was going to do if my gear got really good is I was actually going to move points away from Oak Sage and also stop wearing the Spirit Keeper, which is a great helm, and it's like probably your best bet for this build is just to max Oak Sage and max Spirit of Thorns. This build was also partly inspired or helped by Schmitty, and Schmitty was making his own wind proc druid, and it was quite squishy. And so even though I'm a bear, if my gear's not that good, it's nice to have that Oak Sage. At this point, my defense is so high that I think dropping health for more hunger, would probably be better. What about the summons? Well, obviously Poison Creeper's a 20-point wonder, nothing we can do there. If we get Hunger, though, and drop Oak Sage, where would we put the extra points? I mean, you can dump them in the Oak Sage, but Bear is viable. Bears are just super good. Add a little DPS. The only problem with Bear is they have knockback. If they didn't have knockback, I actually think they'd be a viable 20-point investment for this build. Because I used to ran Bears originally, and I think their damage is helpful quite often just to have another slightly, it's like a little junior mercenary running around. But the fact they do knockback really messes with the ATD, and so overall I thought it wasn't worth it. If they remove ATD, though, definitely Bears are an option. And that's about it. There's not really much else you could do. You could go Wolf, but again, the squishiness is going to be an issue for you. So here you can see the swap and the setup and the gear. It's pretty simple. And here's the skill setup I used. Like I said, I would drop Oak Sage, prioritize Hunger, and then probably dump in the Bear, although I really don't want two of them, which is funny, because normally two Bears are so good. Anything else? Well, the Mercs, I think you're stuck with Emilio. You could just run the physical mercenary, but I think that kind of defeats the purpose of the build in a way. There is a problem, and this is why I mean it defeats the purpose of the build. You can't just run around with a physical merc. You have to actually go slower, because if you just run around, she will die from enemy mobs. Now, if you play it slower, which is like why you're already playing a slow build, just like you walk less, then yeah, she would help out. And you'd probably actually kill mobs quicker by going slower, but then you're still going slower because you're not moving. It's very bizarre, but anyone who plays this game might understand what I mean. Anyways, that's about it. I really hope they buff ATD, especially on Paladins. And they need to buff Thorns on Paladins. Druids don't need too much of a buff in this regard. But I'm just really I had fun playing this build. I had fun making this final video. And I think the best thing I learned is I'm so happy I got to learn about chest. Skeleton out. GG, guys.
Come and play with us, Daddy.